Okay, I'm back at it again. So this one is a case of labor, the organized labor going on strike. So there has been a warning. This one now is a legal and committed warning from labor and also the TUC, that is a Trade Union Congress. They are all warning that from the 3rd of this month, which is the 3rd of June, that the organized labor will embark on an indefinite strike. Now, we know that this has been a long time coming. I mean, it has been on the horizon for a long time. I think since January, that's even before then. But let's just say the one that we want to talk about, let's say on January, when the government organized, or constituted a tripartite party, like a committee to look into this minimum wage thing and then make a recommendation to the president. I think the vice president was actually made the head of that committee, which is Kashim Shettima, was made the head of that team. So they tasked the labor, the trade union congress, and all of them to seek advice and recommendations and then come up with a proposal on what the government should pay. So, however, things have not been going well. The government has not been complying, and the labor guys have also not been, accepting what the government is saying. So, on the government side, the government was able to come up with something, saying 57,000 naira as the minimum wage. But the labor has said no. I mean, and rightly so, because given what Nigeria is going through now, given the economic situation in the country, you would expect that since the prices of things are going up, food is going up, petrol is going up, taxes are going up, every other thing is going up, electricity tariff is going up. Since all those things are going up, it will also only be right that salaries also should go up so as to commensurate with what is happening. Because if the salary is not going up and every other thing that is going to consume that salary is going up, then there's a problem. Because people will end up being in debt. Because, I mean, how much are they even getting in the first place? Minimum wage before is 30,000. And even the 30,000 naira, it's not every state that has actually implemented that to the full. Just to tell you how difficult it has been. A lot of states have not been able to implement that 30,000 naira. That is the minimum wage since 2019. And then now, the labor is asking for 497,000. That was where they stopped then. 497,000 naira. However, after several meetings and then trying to get them to bring it down, government proposed 57 before. The government has added 3,000 naira and then now shifted it to 60,000 naira as minimum wage. And the labor said, okay, since the government has added 3,000, they will deduce or reduce their own too by 3,000 naira. So it's more like they are playing a game of chess, or I don't know what I would call it. Now the labor has brought their own down now to 494,000 instead of 497,000. So labor is at 494,000 naira minimum wage now. And the government is saying that this is not feasible, this cannot happen, this cannot be, be considered because it is too much. But yes, I understand the amount is outrageous, it is big, but wasn't the government thinking about that when they were hiking all the prices? That's the question. Didn't they know that time will come when people will revert or people will start to shout and be like, the money you are giving us is no longer enough. If we have to pay all these taxes that we are paying. Remember the cyber security whatever tax that was brought up at that time? People complained, eventually it was withdrawn. Loan charges, tariff and everything is just going up. Electricity, something that was around 60, electricity tariff was 65 per kilowatt or thereabout, well, moved to 220 something. And then they now graded people into different bands. Band A, band B, band C and all of that. Tried, differentiating people. That means Nigeria has been classed. So if you don't have money, you can't be in the class A. If you have money, then you can be in the class A. In the same country that we are supposed to be the same citizen, everybody having the same resources. So you can see how gradually Nigeria is being divided on the class level. So people are now forced to live in darkness because they cannot, they can't be on class A because they cannot afford class A money. The same country, the same resources. So it's getting wider and wider. Now the labor has been pushing and pushing. The government has been refusing to budge, which is understandable. According to the government, if they show that this minimum wage is going to cost the government about 9 point something trillion naira, the government has to go in depth to be able to fulfill that. So for me personally, I think on the part of the government, I understand. And also on the part of the Labour, I understand. But I think what the Labour is trying to do is to get the government to raise their hand, which is understandable and smart. They want the government to raise their hand. Maybe the government might get to 80 or to 100. That is what they want, from my own point of view. But I wouldn't think it's feasible. Of course, I understand the country is hard. It's affecting everybody. It's affecting me. But for the government to pay the amount, I don't think government can pay the amount. And if you decide to pay it, we are already in debt. So I think even if the government is not going to pay this minimum wage that the Labour is demanding, 497,000 or 494,000, I understand it's plenty. I understand. Of course, it's going to benefit me if it is paid. I will be very, very happy if it is paid. But understanding that the government is already in debt and the government cannot fulfill that, I think the smart way to go about it now is for the government to revert a lot of things. The fuel subsidy that was removed, government should put it back. That is my own recommendation. The electricity tariff that was increased for 65 naira per kilowatt to 225 naira per, it should be reverted back to what it used to be before. Are you getting where I'm going to now? So that if the petrol price, the pump price is being reduced back to where it was before, hopefully things will begin to adjust. The price of food will begin to come down. The price of transportation will begin to come down. The price and then the taxes, everything should be reverted. If the government know how it has been surviving for the past 20-something years that we are in democracy, why can't they continue to aggregate on that method and try to survive on that? Why are they suddenly increasing everything and then expect people to keep quiet? So if government cannot fulfill what the Labour is asking, I think the best thing, the best strategy will be for them to revert all those increases. Because if government is able to revert that pump price now, let's say they put back the subsidy thing, or whatever, whichever way they chose to do it, or they choose to do it, whatever, the pump price should come down. Electricity tariff should come down. And all those taxes that were increased, 20-something percent, whatever percent, those things should be brought back. Then the Labour will have no basis to argue for 494,000. Because at that point, everything is normal. Because even the 60,000 now, to be fair with all of us, let us just be fair with ourselves and be true to ourselves. Even if the federal government accepts, like they've accepted 60,000, which is great and nice, wonderful, 100% increase from what it used to be. Even that, I can assure you that even that 60,000, it is not going to get to everybody. Because when they say something is minimum wage, it means that's the minimum anybody can pay or anybody can receive as salary in the country. Now, the private sector, organized private sector is also agreeing to 60,000. But we all know that in this day and age, people still receive 15,000 naira salary. Even with that 30,000 that was implemented in 2019, people still receive 10,000 naira as salary. Unless you are not in Nigeria. Unless you are not out there in the trenches or you are not out there in the market. People still receive 10K, 15K, 20K as salaries in this same country. Now, even if you go to 60, it's very sure. Even government parastatals, a lot of them will not pay the amount. If federal government is able to pay their staff, good and fine. But will local government be able to pay? I doubt that. So since they have come to a logjam and the labor union, they are threatening to go on strike. In fact, as of Monday like this now, when I'm raising this video, this is on Saturday. As of Monday or by Monday, which is the 3rd of June, the labor is actually going on an indefinite strike. And that strike, we don't know when it's going to end. Now, it's not just labor, the NUPENG and the rest of them, the electricity, all of them, everybody is siding them now and be like, we are all going for strike. I think it's only the customs. The customs are saying that, okay, there's no need to go on strike. It's not going to help the country. Airport workers also, some of them are saying they have not gotten directive from TUC, Trade Union Congress, that when they get that, then they will embark on strike. So imagine what is going to happen. So there's potential blackout that is going to happen if the electricity distribution or whatever thing goes on strike. If NUPENG goes on strike and there's no petrol at the pump stations, the country is going to be in a logjam. And it's going to affect everybody. So eventually the government will have to budge. And if they don't budge, then I think what they should do is to revert all those increases. Because, okay, the last meeting that the labor union went, that they were supposed to have with the government, this is like the 7th time they are having a meeting with the government. According to their pains, they'll be like, okay, they went for the meeting and no government official showed up. The people from the government side, they didn't show up. The only person that showed up was Minister of Information and Communication or thereabout. And that person is supposed to be a counselor between them and the government. But yet that's the only person that showed up. So they are even angry that the government is neglecting them. And rightly so, because I mean, it's more like the government is saying, we don't give a hell what you think or what you think. So they'll be like, okay, if the government is not taking us serious, then maybe when we go on strike, they will take us serious. Which we have known this is what has been done, right from the time of Obasanjo, Goodluck Jonathan, Buhari, and then now Tinubu. Indefinite strike, the ASU strike, and the rest of them has been happening for years. But eventually, they will call them, they will make some agreement and promises, and then it will abandon, they will continue, go back to work, and then after 6 months again, they raise it up. So it's becoming a game that we have seen once in multiple times, and it doesn't make sense because it's not helping anybody. People are actually suffering, legit suffering. People are going to bed, in hunger, legit. People are walking around. I mean, you have to cut your meals. We used to eat 3 times a day. Now we eat like 001 or 100, or different methods that people are surviving on now because you can't really afford to be eating like that. You don't have that money. Now, unless maybe you are doing business and your business is somehow flourishing, then you can be able to live. If not, in this country, a lot of people are not living comfortably. Everybody is just surviving. Those hoping on salaries, it's as if the salary even comes because a lot of businesses are shutting down. They are not surviving now. You are paying, you can't get loan. If you get the loan, the margin is too much. You pick loan on all these loan apps. You just check any loan apps. It's more like 60% interest. For what? And they give you a short duration. How do they expect you to pay back without being in loss? You go to bank won't give you a loan. You have to have a lot of collateral. So it's difficult for businesses to even survive. Talk less of those that are civil servants. Talk less of those that are working jobs that are not even recorded. So my humble submission, which you can also let me know what you think about it in the comment section, is that in order to resolve this impasse, the government should, one, revert back to the old electricity tariff, 65 naira per kilowatt. Revert back the pump price. Even though it doesn't go back to 165 or 150 something, at least you go back, even though it is 200, it's still something. Rather than being at what it is. Some people are buying at 6 something. If you go to NLC or those ones, you can get at 5 something, sometimes. But a lot of places they buy 6 something. A lot of other parts of the country they buy 7 something, 800 and something for 1 liter of petrol. And then someone has to fill their tank. And then someone has to be in business. Transport fares has increased more than 100% in a lot of places. So how does the government think that people are surviving? So the labor actually know what they are doing. Of course, like I said, I understand that the amount is high, but they know what they are doing. Because they expect that government would bargain and come up with their own amount so that then eventually they can reach a bargain. But the government is not moving more than where they are right now, 60K. So let me know, do you think 60K is fair, given the economic challenges in the country, or do you think the government should do more? Or do you think the labor should just abandon the thing and then just take the small win they've gotten, 100%, take the 60K and run with it?